Man gone.
Is that the recent and specific war cries that we got in Dawn of War 2 are just so much better. Side of that franchise, which is a
armor
damn
updating, maintaining.
great.
My helmet right now I'm working on. You're not off or something. Glitch or something?
Anyways, moving on to the Iron Warriors.
Iron within, iron without.
Boys, I don't think I have to tell you this, but we're
blurry and
moving
shit.
into iconic territory with this
Wow.
banger-ass war cry. God damn, do I love these heavy metal bastards. But we should still do our due diligence to examine this one a little bit deeper. Now, what you just
check it
heard,
out.
Iron Within, Iron
Look at that so
Without,
far I'm
is the
out.
phrase that everybody knows.
Just doing the
It's
top
thing
right
that
now,
the
but
Iron Warriors say most
check it
commonly
out.
to each other throughout the novel. However, it is the shorthand of what is known as their unbreakable.
With the wall,
So
the
we
imperium,
must
the man
express it one more time.
gone.
Iron within,
Iron.
iron without. From iron cometh strength. From strength cometh will.
Iron.
From will cometh
Okay.
faith. From faith cometh honor. From honor
See what I'm
cometh
working on right
iron.
here? I'll put
This
this on
is the
on top of it.
unbreakable litany. May it
Well, I'm gonna do all
forever
of
be
that.
so.
Probably
Now,
just
right
pierce
off
it.
the bat, the thing that we should point
I'll
out
just
about
pierce
this
it on.
phrase is that without
Roger,
in
and then
this
cut it.
context is kind of an old-timey
Cut
way
it,
of
cut it,
saying
cut it, cut it,
outside.
cut it, cut
So
it, cut
iron
it,
within,
cut it,
iron
cut it.
without is a mantra that states that the
Or
equipment
just leave them on the
field
top.
and the physical
Just fix
strength
it
of
to
your
this one.
body are equally as
Roger, let's do
important as your strength of spirit, discipline, and willpower.
I gotta put it
Strength
under
of
this
arm
now.
and strength of mind. The rest of the chant enforces all of this, but the shorthand
cut it.
version of iron within, iron without gets the whole
Those are
point
the
across
same.
in a lot more compact way. I'm not gonna lie,
T-tighter.
in my personal opinion,
Or is it
I
T-type?
don't think there's a better Space Marine
See
war
here.
cry to use for
Yeah, it's
gym
not
bros,
T-type.
unless you're some kind of psycho in the gym
Yeah.
screaming blood for the blood god, skulls for the skull
Right
thrower,
there,
and
that's
squat
it.
rack. Don't be that guy.
That one's
You're
called
scaring the hoes.
Stop it.
Need space on board.
Get some help.
Next time you're doing a set,
Stop it. Get
give
some
a
help.
good solid iron within, iron
Let's
without
just
with
go.
every repetition. I promise you, you're gonna get better
Delicious.
results. As an example of peak physical perfection myself,
Yeah.
I feel like I'm qualified to speak on this. Now, I find myself in a bit of a dilemma, as I really badly want to put this one into S tier, but I have it here in my notes that the S tier is reserved for war cries that have either come to define what 40K is all about, or they've become so iconic they've branched out into the mainstream. So in good conscience, I can't put this one in S tier. I'm going to put it in
Yes,
A
that
tier.
does it.
But that might not be a bad thing. That means that this one is still for the boys. The Minecraft streamers haven't gotten a hold of this one yet. Okay, on to the most underrated and oftentimes completely forgotten Space Marine genre, the White Scars. But before we get into that, have you heard that the flavored air category is quickly becoming the leading alternative to vaping and smoking? It's a whole new movement towards better habits, led by the sponsor of today's video, View. Now, when they first reached out to me, I'm going to admit it, I didn't really know what to think. I thought this thing was a vape, and I wasn't too keen on promoting it. However, I was pleasantly surprised when they sent me one to try out, and I saw firsthand it had nothing to do with vaping or
A
smoking.
little bit
It's got
tighter
these cool
now.
little spongy cores inside that are packed with flavor. You suck on it, it fills your mouth with said flavor. It's super simple. There's no nicotine, no vapor, no smoke, no batteries, and most importantly, no harmful chemicals or addictive substances. Just a crisp, refreshing, guilt-free alternative to bad habits. The sparkling grapefruit has been my favorite flavor so far, but I've yet to try one that I didn't enjoy. Also, the device itself is super well made. It feels high quality and weighted, and it's designed to be fidgeted with. It uses a series of magnet snaps in place that help calm anxiety. Super satisfying. Not only is Flume backed by doctors in the US, but they continuously invest in third-party studies to ensure the safety of their products. Flume has served over 300,000 customers, and there's no reason you can't be the next success story. For a limited time, use my code WestHammer to get your free Fume base when you order the Journey Pack. It's the all-new magnetic stand for your Fume device. Head to tryfume.com. That's tryfum.com. And use code WestHammer or scan the QR code on the screen to get your free Fume base when you order your Journey Pack today. Big thanks to Fume for sponsoring this video.
For the Khan and the Emperor.
Okay, so you know how I just said that the White Scars are super underrated? That's a hill that I'll die. For the longest time, I didn't really think about these guys until I started reading the Horus Heresy books. And I gotta tell you, every single time a White Scars Legionnaire shows up in one of the stories, it's a genuine treat. These guys are awesome, badass, and they always seem to have something profound to say. They're a legion that never acts the way that you think they're supposed to act, and they constantly surprise you with their insight and wisdom. I don't think it's really possible for you to read any of the books that the White Scars are in and not at least have them shoot up several tiers in your top 5 favorite Space Marine chapter. But that damn James Workshop didn't do them any favors with this jackass war cry. It commits the cardinal sin of simply referencing the Emperor and the Primarch without anything extra that invokes what the chapters are about. I mean, these dudes are super soldier Space Marine Mongolians that ride sick-ass motorcycles instead of horses. They're storm seers, channel the primal elements into raging lightning storms and tornadoes. And they do all kinds of badass shamany stuff. And this is the war cry that they get. As much as it pains me because I love these guys, they're going in the trash. And speaking of trash, next up is the Space Marine.
For us and the All Father.
Listen, I know I've never really made it a secret that I'm not just that big of a Space Wolves fan. I've learned to like their 40k version a lot more than their Horus Heresy counterpart, but they just really don't do much for me. And looking at the war cry, considering that this one does the exact same lazy nonsense that the White Scars war cry did, my instinct is to throw it right in the trash. However, I'm not gonna lie. I think the Space Wolves referring to the Emperor as the All-Father is kind of badass and super fitting for their clear Nordic inspiration. Like, if I removed all of my 40k and looked at this war cry in a vacuum, as if I'm some kind of normie that doesn't know anything about Space Wolves, it conjures an image reminiscent of what they are, space Vikings. So instead of the trash, they're gonna go into the D tier. Space Wolf fans, don't say I never did nothing for you.
Primarch Progenitor, to your glory and the glory of him on earth.
Okay, it's become clear to me that we are in the middle of some kind of dark middle chapter when it comes to Space Marine Warcraft. James Workshop must have come up with all of these at the same time after a massive vendor printing money and plastic crap. Because once again, the Imperial Fists come in with another trash tier Warcraft. I would dare say this might actually be the worst defender of the bunch. It's long, clunky, commits the same sin as the last two, and worst of all, it's just fucking boring. It doesn't tell me anything
fucking
about
boring.
the Imperial Fist. At least with the other ones that we put in the trash, they do technically function as a Warcraft. They're just lame. And it's ironic because the Black Templars are a chapter of the Imperial Fist, and theirs is way better.
No pity, no remorse, no fear.
You see, not only did that one perfectly capture what the Black Templars are all about, an absolutely brutal group of space crusaders that obliterate every heretic, mutant, alien that gets in their way, but it's also quintessentially Warhammer. And it's a damn shame because I actually really like the Imperial Fist. But they're going in the trash, and the Black Templars are going in A tier. Okay, moving on to the Sons of Sanguinius, the Blood Angels.
By the blood
up
of
the green,
Sanguinius.
And once again, we have another trash tier war cry. In fairness, it does seem like it would work as a war cry in battle. I can actually hear them shouting this, and at least the word blood shows up in the Blood Angels war cry. But these dudes have an incredibly rich history and a super unique aesthetic. They're angelic vampire space marines. Their war cry has limitless potential, and they just did nothing with it. I'm a huge Soulsborne fan. I played every single one of the FromSoft games at least a dozen times through, and Bloodborne is by far my favorite. So the thing that comes to mind here for me, if I was going to do any editing on this, is the old adage.
Get Ultra delivered with DoorDash.
Business evolves fast. Our students are ready. Learn more at wgu.edu.
The difference between cute and
war.
These are the LED sunglasses from Warby Parker. They are sleek, they're timeless, plus they're scratch resistant. Give the sunglasses lover in your life a gift that lasts.
Undertone here is the year's first great horror movie. It's absolute nightmare fuel. Nerve shredding and truly cursed. It's the scariest movie you'll ever hear. Undertone, only in theaters Friday, March 13th.
We are all of the blood, made men by the blood.
undone by the blood. Fear the old blood. You see, that would work so much better as a Blood Angel's war cry, or at least a mantra. It's super deep, mysterious, ominous, and threatening. And blood is its central theme. I'm not saying Games Workshop should rip off another franchise, because they would never do that. I just use this as an example of what they could have done. But as it stands, it's pretty awful. And as much as it pains me, because the Blood Angels are probably my favorite Loyalist chapter, they also gotta go in the trash. Okay, moving on to the spooky boys, the Night Lords.
Ave Dominus Nox.
Okay, I'm going to let you know right now that there's definitely going to be a whole bunch of personal bias here. I love all things spooky, and the Night Lords are no exception. I love how they're basically a legion of horror movie villains. I love their personalities, their armor. Hell, I even love their stupid Batwing outfits. I don't care if they're dumb and impractical. I think they're neat. Also, I don't own any of these guys. It's a legion I would definitely play in the tabletop game if their paint scheme wasn't so ridiculously extra. You got me fucked up if you think I'm painting all the tiny little
blurry. My vision blurry.
This is a video about war cries, so how does theirs rank? Is it good or trash? Now, personally, I think it's kind of awesome. Now, the one that you just heard, Ave Dominus Nox, roughly translates to Hail the Lord. Just means God or Lord, some other type of super high authority figure. And Nox means night. Now, I believe if we're looking at actual Latin, it would be Noctis, but High Gothic is basically just Latin, but given a little bit of a grimdark twist to make some of the words sound more cool, to make it more uniquely Warhammer. I've heard a lot of people say that this phrase is referencing the Primarch Conrad Curze, because Lord of Night, Conrad Curze, Primarch of the Night Lords, it makes sense. But this isn't how it reads to me, because if you know anything about the Night Lords, you know that when it comes to opinions about their father figure, let's just say they're conflicted. Also, considering that the Legion is literally called the Night Lords, on one hand, it can be used as a greeting between battle cries. On the other hand, when used as a war cry, it's quite literally telling their enemies to hail the night itself, to welcome the abyss and to embrace their death. Which, goddamn, sends a shiver up my spine. That's fucking awesome. And although this is the most
my name in vain, you motherfucker.
And it's super straightforward and to the point. We have come to and what a perfect war cry for a bunch of slasher movie villains. Not we have come to fight against your army, but we've come to engage in honorable combat. No, we have come for you specifically. We're going to drag you, kicking and screaming, back into the abyss, where you'll experience horrors unimaginable. I have it here in my notes that they're supposed to go into B tier, but I just can't help myself. They're going into A tier. They're not S tier material, but this is a good one. Anyways, moving on to the Iron Hands.
The flesh is weak.
Where do I even start with that? A chapter that has embraced a similar mindset to the Adeptus Mechanicus, that flesh is a weakness, and to be strong, you must replace as much of it as possible with cybernetic augmentations, for the machine is eternal. They're renowned for their pride, their cold-hearted brutality, and utter remorselessness in battle. So the flesh is weak as a war cry is perfectly suited to that. It's evocative of who and what they're all about, as well as being intimidating. As a fleshy individual myself, I saw a group of these dudes charging down the hill at me, pointing at my flabby, terrible body, screaming, "The flesh is weak." My final thoughts would be, God damn, bullying took a dark turn in the future. And then I would die a horrifying death. But here's the thing, there's actually more to this war cry than most people realize, as this is only the first half of it. In the short story Deeds Endure, we get a little bit more insight into its history. Apparently, it can trace its origins back to Vulcan, Primarch of the Salaman. You see, him and Ferrus Manus have been fighting against the orcs on the world within the Shockshoot cluster. At one point, when the two of them were fighting side by side in a particularly brutal battle, Ferrus turned to Vulcan and laughed, saying that his arms were tired from killing just so many orcs. Now, Vulcan smiled at him and said that the flesh is weak, but deeds endure. It was in praise of his brother. He was telling him perhaps ironically, that even though the lifespans were longer than most, even the Primarchs would eventually die. But the great things that Ferrus managed to accomplish would live on forever. Their great deeds being remembered by all those they left behind and all those that would come after. Ferrus may have been a harsh master, an unforgiving ally, but he was more than just a warrior. He was a builder, a creator. Now, needless to say, the second half of that phrase is mostly forgotten, emphasis being placed, but that's a story for a different video. So how would I rank this one? It works on a lot of different levels for the Iron Hand. It works as a war cry to be shouted in battle and directly before. It works as a mantra to remind them of their purpose and who and what they are. It's evocative of the lore in the chapter, and from the audience's perspective, there's a lot of interesting history attached to it. So, in my opinion, it's a solid A tier. This is a really good war cry. I like this one. But we're going to skip over the 11th Legion now, as just like the second, all information's been redacted on them, and we're going to move on to the 12th. Everyone's favorite blood-crazed berserkers, the World Eaters.
Blood for the Blood God! Skulls for the Skull Throne!
Warhammer 40k has given us a lot of iconic
Oh yeah, skull throne. Yeah.
lines of
Give their
dialogue
head
that are
one.
bombastic, over the top, indicative of what it's truly like to live in the grim dark future. Lines like innocence proves nothing. Even in death, I still serve. Loyalty is its own reward. Let the galaxy burn, and so many more lines that frankly go way too hard. However, despite how iconic we as Warhammer fans may think these lines are, they don't often bridge over into the mainstream. And admittedly, that might be a good thing. There is, however, one massive exception. A phrase so quintessentially 40k, so perfect in its execution, that even people like fucking Minecraft streamers constantly shout it at the top of their lungs.
Blood for the Blood God! Skulls for the Skull Throne!
My brothers, we are witnessing greatness with this one. This one is not only easily one of the best war cries in all of 40k, but it may just be the most iconic line that 40k has ever produced. It works on every level as a war cry. It's intimidating, it gets the boys pumped up for the slaughter to come. I can see it being shouted mid-battle and directly before. It tells me everything that I need to know about the World Eaters in 2 simple sentences. This one is easy S-tier material, and I'm going to be completely honest with you, this one's going to be really hard to beat. This might just be the best war cry on the list. But we're about halfway through it, so we'll see if things change. But this one's going to be tough to dethrone.
We march from a crag, and we shall know no fear.
Okay, so when it comes to the Ultramarines war cry, most people know that first part, we march from a crag, but not everybody knows that it's actually supposed to be a call and response. The squad leader says the first part, all the men under his command respond with, as we shall be, which I'm gonna be honest with you, I didn't actually know this until recently when I went back to watch that shitty Ultramarines movie from 2010. I remember when that thing first came out and everybody clowned on it for looking absolutely terrible. I mean, just look at the animation that was happening around that same time. It definitely deserved it. But having gone back to it recently, like the jarring animations don't really, they're not as noticeable because it came out so long ago. And I gotta admit, it's pretty charming. It's available for free on YouTube, so if you haven't seen it yet, I definitely recommend checking it out. As I said earlier in the video, I'm not a fan of war cries that simply reference their Primarch or the Emperor. It's pretty lazy. But referencing a chapter's homeworld, honestly, totally okay with it. And to be fair, I don't really know why. I think it just makes it more unique to the chapter. Primarchs can have dozens of chapters that all trace their lineage back to them. And the Emperor's influence is plastered over literally everything in Imperium. But a homeworld? That's something that's totally uniquely theirs. But following that same line of logic, I should have a problem with the phrase "no fear," as it's a concept that's attributed to all space marines, as all of them have quite literally had their fight or flight response genetically removed from them. In fact, the first time we ever heard this line was from the Emperor's own lips. They shall be my finest warriors, these men who give themselves to me. Like clay I shall mold them, and in the furnace of war forge them. They will be of iron will and steely muscle. In great armor shall I clad them, and with the mightiest guns will they be armed. They will be untouched by plague or disease, no sickness will blight them. They will have tactics, strategies, and machines, so that no foe can best them in battle. They are my bulwark against the terror. They are the defenders of humanity. They are my space marines, and they shall know no fear. First and foremost, that whole bit of dialogue from the Emperor is iconic, awesome, badass, is perfect. But when it comes to the Ultramarines specifically, using that iconic line as part of their war cry, I don't know, it just kind of fits. And that's not for any real lore reasons. It's more just because, and I'm sure a lot of people are in the same boat, when I think of a space marine, the first thing that comes to mind is an Ultramarine. They're the default. They're the poster boys not only for the Astartes, but Warhammer 40k as a franchise in general, which is weird considering they're the 13th Legion. Like, really, you would think this would be a Dark Angels thing, but I don't know, they just decided that blue was a better color to put on all their boxes, so it's the Ultramarines. So if any chapter could use this as part of their war cry and get away with it without it feeling lazy, it's definitely the Ultramarines. Also, quick shout out to their other war cry, Honor and Courage. It's short, simple, to the point, and captures what they're all about. Both of these are good, solid war cries for the Ultramarine. Maybe not the most unique, but they're solid nonetheless. Easy B-tier material. Okay, moving on to another personal favorite of mine, Nurgle's special nasty boys, the Death Guard.
The Death Guard have no rallying cry as such. As Plague Marines, they are the incarnation of silent death, the virulent epidemic, the wasting disease, and the remorselessness of decay. They are pestilence and pox, famine and blight, contagion and cancer, and like all these things, are most terrifying when they come without word or warning.
So, as Chris elegantly just explained, the Death Guard don't have a war cry. I've seen a lot of people try to claim that Count the Seven is their war cry, but that was specifically a borrow the Seventh Company thing during the Great Crusade. It's not applicable to the entire Legion. And with the before passage, I get what they're trying to do here. That's from Index Astartes, and it makes a solid argument for why the Death Guard used it. But that didn't always used to be the case. And way back in their history, back when they were the Dust Bowl, they had a fantastic war cry. We are the voice of the clarion call. We are tyrants' ruin and rivals' fall. I'm just finding out right now that I'm a huge sucker for war cries that rhyme. This one is awesome. It fits with their lore perfectly, and ironically, it's even better after they become the Death Guard proper and are reunited with Mortarion. The Men of Barbarous had been ruled over by Necromantic that preyed on the human population. So when Mortarion showed up and rallied them against them, with a little help of Deus Ex, Master of Mankind, they overthrew these tyrants. Afterwards, they claimed their mission statement was to make sure overlords of their ilk across the galaxy would be brought to ruin. My only real issue here with this one is it just doesn't work with the modern Death Guard, as they famously ended up becoming the tyrants they were once so hell-bent on destroying. But maybe they could make it work if they brought it back. Just give it a healthy dose of irony, like the Emperor's Children war cry does. So I gotta be honest, I'm kind of conflicted with this one. The Death Guard showed up to class on the day of the exam unprepared. And although their reason for why they didn't do the homework is ultimately pretty fitting for them, the grimdark professor in me is saying they need to go in the trash. However, I'm feeling a little bit lenient here. And I do a one-time exception and put them in the team, but only because their original war cry was just so good. Honestly, more war cries should rhyme. Hell, let's get a couple of limericks in the mix. But you know, maybe not for the Emperor's Children. I'm pretty confident that would just be upsetting for everybody. All is dust. Okay, this one is super unique. The Thousand Sons 100% understood the assignment, but they were going to put a creative spin on it nonetheless. You see, most war cries try to pump you up or intimidate your enemies, but for the Thousand Sons, all it's dust is super melancholy. It's depressing and ultimately just really sad. It conjures images of the burning of Prospera, of all of their brothers that either got turned into rubric marines or fell to the flesh chain. As a legion, the Thousand Sons have been overlooked, and all this dust is pretty appropriate for them. There's also just something totally twisted about 8-foot-tall super soldiers that are also crazy powerful sorcerers expressing such a sense of apathy and nihilism in their rallying cry. It's different, but it works for me. On the exact opposite end of the spectrum, you have their other well-known war cry, Vengeance for Prospero, which goes in the complete opposite direction. It's as if everything they do is motivated purely by revenge. So both of these in tandem create a very unique picture of the mindset of these warriors. I don't know. I really like it. It doesn't work as a war cry, and probably not for you or me or any other Space Marine Legion chapter or warband, but for the Thousand Sons, absolutely.
Who pushed one pushed?
So here for the same reason, we're going to save our plans. Try Aleve for longer lasting body pain relief. Aleve.
It's comfortable, it's affordable, it's comfortable. The new Harry's Plus.
You take Cash App by any chance?
Yes.
Cash App makes saving effortless.
don't really have to look at it. You don't have to like stress about it. It helps make room in my head for everything else I got going on.
Up next, we got the Luna Wolves / Black Legion / Sons of Horus. They've had a lot of different names over the years.
Kill for the living, kill for the dead. Lupakal. From shadow and shame we cast, in black and gold reborn. We are Rakan, death to the false emperor.
As the quintessential Chaos Space Marine antagonist, these guys have probably been through more iterations than any other legion. From the Luna Wolves of the Great Crusade era to the Sons of Horus of the Horus Heresy, to ultimately the Black Legion after they were reformed by Abaddon the Despoiler. And all of the war crimes associated with each period of time are pretty great. For fans of the Horus Heresy novel specifically, I think we can all attest that, especially in those first 3 books, kill for the living, kill for the dead, Lupercal, got all of us hyped. It's an awesome war ride, especially by the 3rd book, when they give it a slight little twist that foreshadows things to come. I'm going to read you a little passage from Galaxy in Flames, because I think it goes pretty hard. The first captain held out his hand in the middle of the group and said, "Kill for the living." "Kill for the dead," said Axeman, placing his hand on Abaddon's. "To hell with the living and the dead," said Torgadon. Following suit, "Kill for the War Master." Loken felt a great love for his brothers and nodded, placing his hand into the circle. The confraternity of Norval, filling him with pride and reassurance. "I will kill for the War Master," he promised. Oh, shivers. It's fucking awesome. So it starts off great, and then it gets even better as the twist is relevant to their arc in the story. And then 1,000 years later, we get the Talon of Horus novel. And this is after the Horus Heresy failed. The Sons of Horus are a shattered legion, and Abaddon is trying to reunite them to form the Black Legion. It doesn't matter if they're from the Sons of Horus originally or they're Chaos Space Marines or legions. Those who would choose to follow Abaddon paint their armor black in mourning of their failure at Terra, but also to symbolize themselves becoming something new. This is where we get that war cry from Shadow and Shame recast in Black and Gold Reborn. But once again, this is perfectly fitting for where they are in the timeline. But then we get a 3rd evolution of the war cry after the first Black Crusade has kicked off. The infamous line, "We have returned, death to the false emperor." But let's look at both of these lines in a bit more context. The first line, "We have returned," is literally what Abaddon carved into Sigismund's sword before sending it and the man's corpse back to the Imperium in order to announce that the first Black Crusade was about to begin. Whereas the second line basically speaks for itself, "Death to the false emperor." This has become synonymous with all Chaos Space Marine. It is the retort to the classic Loyalist line for the Emperor. But it all started with the Black Legion. If this was being used by other Chaos warbands, it would be trashed here because it's too generic. But for the Black Legion,